This is Justice League Annual 7 or 8 or 9 or something, I didn't care. And since I am doing that Marvel crossover, the Excellent Men crossover that was in a bunch of annuals, pretty good story that one, I thought I would also look at a DC one, and better yet, look at the worst DC one. This is called Blood Ties, and I mentioned it in passing in one of my unboxing videos when I got a Stephen Altman issue that was a part of it. I ate this crossover, I really ate it. The premise is that there were some xenomorphs, like off of that film Predator. They have come to Earth and they are sucking off people's spines. And that in itself, that could be a fun crossover. But instead, what the crossover really was, it was just a series of backdoor pilots for some very unimaginative new characters, most of whom didn't appear again after their introductions. This is the character that this issue sets up. He is called Barry Boring or something, and he is very, very boring. Like all these new characters, he has got now about his backstory or his personality that make him the slightest bit interesting. And his life, it is gone into shit, but then he meets this sexy woman, very sexy woman, but think again, cause it's a xenomorph and it sucks off his spine. But then she turns sexy again, so it's okay. And it's alright for Barry, cause the idea was sometimes when xenomorphs suck off your spine, you wouldn't die, you would just become a really bland, super-powered character. And God, this guy, he is incredibly bland. Even though he probably does have the most interesting of all the powers that these new characters were given. He touches people and then they transform into their own nightmares. Like here, he is touching his landlord and his landlord has turned into whatever that is. That's an alright power. It's a bit different and unique, but it's also not a particularly narratively useful power. The majority of what you can do with that character is use him to put other characters through metaphysical internal battles with their greatest fears. And I cannot think of something I want to read less than that. Again though, one thing I will say in defence of this Barry Boring character is that they build him up like he could be a villain. Like here, he gets gone to the doctors and he is lashing out at his doctor because they have got no idea what's going on with his body. And setting him up like a villain, that's probably the most intriguing thing about any of these new characters. But then, in the end, he's apparently not a baddie, he's a goodie, and then he never appears again. This is just such a dull story that barely even makes use of the Justice League. Here, we do have the Justice League, and they're just chasing Barry away. We have got Maximo and Rayman, and they are fighting a bunch of people that were transformed into their nightmares. And then we cut to the Justice League headquarters, and you might be thinking, actually, it is shaping up to be a Justice League story after all. But nah, here the book has the tenacity to introduce another 3 characters, and it gives them no personality. And of course, they get a beat up Green Lanterns, Gary Gardner. Gary Gardner, he gets one-shotted by these cool new characters who also never appear again. And straight away we're back to focusing on Barry Boran. Barry Boran and these other new characters who are also boring. The Justice League, they are mostly just wallpaper for these blood ties heroes. And the books, all the tie-ins, they spent ages on these xenomorphs too, trying to build up some sort of team dynamic and rivalries between them. And don't get us wrong, this xenomorph is really sexy, but I didn't give a rat's arse about the xenomorphs. I want to see them suck off people's spines and fight the Justice League, not piss and moan about not being loved or wanting to live on Earth or whatever. This here, though, is the best scene in the whole comic. It doesn't involve any of the blood ties crap or any of them new characters. It's not even relevant to the story, really. You could just take the scene, you could put this in any other issue of Justice League from this era. It's just Wonder Woman and Gary Gardner. They're having a really good character moment, like a heart-to-heart. This page is so good, it makes it hard to properly review this otherwise boring comic. The rest, it's all just shite about Barry Boran, and I didn't care. I really didn't care. Sadly, this is written by William Messner Loebs, who is a good writer, and as that Wonder Woman page showed, he is a good writer. Just this crossover was not a good way to showcase his quality. You should still donate to his GoFundMe though. It's wrong that the industry has allowed his living situation to become so bad when the man clearly can and will write comics. And I don't really blame him for this issue. A lot of this crossover was obviously editorial mandated. The idea that every part introduce a new character, well, that's obviously not the writers ganning the DC and saying, hey, I've got a new character. It's editorial saying, introduce a new character in each part. And when I say I hate this crossover, I really do as well. I think it is worthless, but at the same time, I might say it's one of the worst, but it's really not at the same level as, like, some of the properly awful shite. Like, this isn't Heroes in Christmas. This is just a bad and boring story. But I still really didn't like it. But obviously it's nowhere near the amount of contempt I have for Heroes in Christmas or a Michael Bryan Benson vanity project or whatever. What it might be though, it might be the most uninteresting and most boring crossover story of all time. So in the end, if you are interested in reading Blood Ties, I only recommend it if you can't keep affording paint to watch dry on your wall. I really think it's just rubbish. Bland, boring rubbish. And often, like this issue, the book's characters barely feature, the stars, they're barely in it, because they're just so busy setting up the new character or utilising the xenomorphs from Blood Ties, and those things are just boring. Everything about Blood Ties is boring. It's not interesting. I rate this 7 thumbs up.